Let's take a look now at some of these concepts of what we mean by a square root, and then we'll do some calculations involving squares and square roots. So let's take a look. The first concept here is, what is a square root? Well, a square root is a number that is multiplied by itself to give a square number. So for example, if we've got 3 is actually made up of the root of 3 times 3. Or we could say the root of 9 is equal to 3. So that root of 9, as you can see, gets broken down into 3 times 3, and then when you root that, it just becomes equal to 3. What is a cube root? That is a number that is multiplied by itself, and this time is 3 times, not 2 times, 3 times, to give a cube number. So for example, 2 is the same as the cube, look at that 3 there, the cube root of 2 times 2 times 2. So the cube root of 8 gives you 2. What do we mean by a square? A square is a plane figure with 4 straight sides of equal length. You've seen this before. So this is a square and it has 4 sides with equal length. What do we mean by a cube? A cube is a 3-dimensional figure bounded by 6 faces. Each of the 6 faces is a square. So to draw a cube, what I normally do is I draw a square there, then I draw another square like that, and then I can just join these lines. So I join all these lines, it then starts making something that looks like a 3-dimensional cube. So that's a 3-dimensional figure bounded by 6 faces. If you count this, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Each of the 6 faces is a square. So each of these lands up being a square, and there are 6 of them making up your cube. What do we mean by volume? Well, volume is the amount of space that is occupied by a solid square. It is measured in terms of cubic units. So if you work out how much space is occupied by this figure, that would be called your volume. What do we mean by area? Area is the size of an enclosed region, and it's measured in terms of square units. What do we mean by the area of a square? Well, the area of a square is simply the length of the square multiplied by its width. Or we could say side times side, because in a square they both have, or they all have equal sides. If we call that a S, that's another S, that's another S, that's another S. Therefore, the area of the square would just be S times S, which would be S squared. What about the surface area of a cube? So coming back to that picture of a cube, the surface area is the area around all the sides. If we had to go around all of the sides of this thing, we'd be finding the surface area. That is, if you could paint it with a paintbrush, that would be the surface area. So that surface area would be 6 times whatever the length times the width is, or we could say 6 times side, because we know each of these is a square, and we've got S and S, and we've got 6 of them. So the summary is that the area of a cube would be 6 times S squared, 6 times the area of each square. What is the volume of a cube? Well, the volume of a cube is the length of the cube times the width times the height. Or we could say side times side times side, or side cubed. Now, what do we mean by the square root and squaring a number? We know that 3 squared gives us 9. So that means that the square root of 9 must give us 3. So note that the root of 9 can be rewritten as the root of 3 times 3, that's the root of 9, or root 3 times root 3, and root 3 times root 3 must give you 3. So if you look at this square, it's a 1 by 1 square. If you look at this square, it's a 2 by 2, 2 rows, 2 columns. If you look at this square, it is a 3 by 3. So this is 1 squared, this is 2 squared, this is 3 squared. Okay, that was a good revision of squares, square roots, and all the different formulae we're going to use.